I would love to get your perspective on the whole week and everything. I guess personally, I saw a bunch of Immelmans running around there in Montreal. How was the week from a personal level and experiencing the city and all that?
Look, I thought the week was great. I thought the fans were awesome. Thursday morning was a little kind of lethargic, a little bit, but I guess with the Americans getting up early, it sort of quietened the fans down. But from Friday on, they were raucous, and so the Canadian fans turned out en masse, which was fun. I thought the golf course was really cool for match play. I think if it's a stroke play event, they'd probably shred the place. But it was great for match play. Lots of holes where you would see lead changes and stuff. Montreal was great. Truth be told, I was kind of weak because I was invited to two hockey games and I bailed on both preseason over there because our hotel was quite close to the golf course, which is about 30 minutes or so outside of downtown Montreal. But all in all, the weather was great, nice and cool. The tournament was great. Kudos to the Americans; they played really well, and and I'm sort of somewhat disappointed because I feel like it's just my opinion that perhaps for Saturday, certainly on the 36 hole day, the teams could have been lined up a little different because a 4 point lead is next to impossible to overcome. And then you add the power of the Americans with guys like Sam Burns and Colin Morikawa playing really well. That was always going to be a bridge too far. So all in all, it was close until we saw a bunch of the same groups for the internationals play twice on Saturday, and they just gassed them for Sunday.
How fun was Friday for you though, with that beatdown of the Americans?
I, there's no. I was. It was fun afterwards. I was on the golf
Mhm.
course with the Sungjae Hideki versus Patrick Cantlay Xander Schauffele game. So it was first out and 7-6. If you still ask me that now, and I wouldn't believe you that that was going to be the results. And then to tell me they were going to get out there with 5-0, given what happened the day prior, I would have bet everything I had on that not happening. But it's just it kind of started flowing, and there was a lot of momentum that started happening, and you just heard roars all over the show. Every group's got off to a fast start, which was kind of crucial. Um, and and the momentum just carried on. And then to be there at the end because I finished the first game so early that I went in for lunch, and my producer sent me out to finish the final match with Scheffler and Henley. And to watch that when they snuck out the final points, the internationals, it was incredible on the car ride home because my colleagues were in New Zealand and Australia, me, and then John Swantek, our American host. And so the vibe was great then. But during the day, I'm still flabbergasted it happened 2 days in a row, once, let alone 2 days in a row.
Oh, it was insane. Friday was straight belt to ass beatdown of the Americans with the margin of victories and seeing I think Hideki and Sungjae shot like 8 under an
Yeah, but
alternate shot.
yeah, I
What
know.
do you make
Well, they
I
made 7 birdies in a row in alternate shot. I mean, they could no one did that in best ball, and that's how ludicrous that level of play was.
so I wanted to ask you, what did you make of the quality of golf both or I guess across the first 4 sessions, the quality of golf in foursomes was so much better than in 4 ball. What do you make of that? Why do you think that was the case?
Again, there were so many things that I couldn't predict or even understand. Yeah, the quality of golf in alternate shot was off the chain.
Mhm.
Best ball was kind of weird because the place did set up well to sort of have someone who would put the ball in the fairway and then someone who could play some offense. Um, but it was almost like, well, I will say this in singles, and I was just saying this to a lesson I was just giving before I rushed in here. That when I watched Hideki, because I called Hideki and Scotty on Sunday, and I just watched two guys, especially Matsuyama, who was playing not playing not to lose. He was playing to be great, and he was lining up flags and just swinging aggressively. And if putts were missing, they were rolling past the hole. And that was weird in best ball because we didn't see that very much. But in
Mhm.
alternate shot, it was weird in a format where typically you play kind of defense. They were just so aggressive. I still can't make sense of it, but the level of play in that format was incredible.
It was insane. It was one of the like you mentioned, there are a couple strange things that kinda happened this week. But to me, that was one of the stranger with just the scores that these guys were shooting in alternate shot. It was bonkers.
I do feel like the scoreline is not indicative of the tournament because there were so many close matches. I mean, on day one, in that 5-0 drubbing of the internationals, 3 games went to 18, and all 3 games, the Americans birdied the last hole, which is something they hadn't done in the past. So there's that. So those games were close. And then you're right, Friday was kind of one-sided score-wise. But then all those games on Saturday, they were nip and tuck for a long time. And it's just like, especially in the afternoon, the Americans outlasted the internationals. And it wasn't because of fitness. It's just because you got guys playing their 72nd hole in 3 days where you had some fresh American legs out there. And the shots you started to see from guys like Si Woo and Tom Kim and Adam Scott and that sort of crowd, you could see the fatigue. When you start missing late right, and there's then all of a sudden a fast hook, like you saw Cantlay hit off the 1 tee on 16. That's guys that are just tired. The legs aren't underneath them anymore in the golf swing. So, yeah, the scoreline doesn't sort of belies the how close it was for a long while.
I believe in totality, the US won just one more hole than the internationals throughout the week.
Ridiculous. I know. It's crazy. And that's why you speak to all the internationals, and I did a few of them, and they all they use the word, it's a feeling. And they got this feeling in the locker room. They're so cohesive, and you can sense the how they've unified behind that shield and how they play for more than just themselves. Even Matsuyama, I mean, Hideki never really shows much emotion. And alongside Sungjae, who was going on almost like Siwoo Kim at certain times, they were fist pumping after iron shots. Um, Playing alternate shot with Sungjae kind of loosened him up. And here's Hideki raising the roof with the crowds and fist pumping like aggressively when he'd make putts. And so you saw even a Matsuyama had sort of bought into this whole thing that's going on over there. So yeah, it's sort of sucked that the result was what it was, but there's a lot to build on. And I feel like next time, I just like them to kind of leave the whole data analytics thing a little bit and kind of go with your gut, once or twice. That's why you're the captain. But again, they know more than me. I was not in the team room, so I don't know. But I do find some of the Saturday afternoon groupings for the internationals curious.
Got to go with the eye test from time to time there, Mark.
Heck yes, I mean you know it. It's crazy. Like Adam Scott is in great shape, but asking that guy to play 5 rounds in 4 days, he's in his 40s,
Mhm.
and that's not only takes its toll physically. There's an emotional draining, and you could see how lethargic all the internationals were when they came out really slow on Sunday morning in the singles, and the Americans. What I think they won. I think it was more than 60% of the first 5 holes, and that just made the thing a bridge too far. So, yeah, I felt like there should have been some splitting up of groups on Saturday afternoon.
I agree with you where I think the competition is getting closer and closer despite what the final score said. You think about day one, like you mentioned, day three also, it could have gone a number of different ways. And I really like what the internationals have built behind the shield. It seems like everyone's really buying into that. And I hate the people online who are clamoring for the PGA Tour to change this somehow because it feels like the internationals have momentum. It feels like they're getting closer and closer and they're building towards something. So I guess my question for you, Mark, is what do you think that missing piece is for them to get over the hump?
I cannot answer that question with any conviction, but I
Okay.
will say this. The most popular team competition is the Ryder Cup. People fall over themselves to watch this thing, right?
Hmm.
For years upon years upon years, that was so one-sided that Jack Nicklaus would say to them, "Hey, GB and I, let's invite the Euros in," which they did. Then it got a bit closer. And then Tony Jacklin, he got the Europeans to believe because he was the first guy to fly the Europeans on Concorde over to the United States, where the Americans would show up with all the gear and the cool bags and all of the money and stuff like that, and the Europeans were nickel and diming the thing. Now, the internationals over here aren't, but it could be something as small as that. Just that sense of belonging, that sense of meaning, that sense of ownership which they've got. and then the sense of we can hang with these guys. And it looked to me like the internationals believed they could hang with the Americans. They really did. And
Mm.
so I don't think it's far away now, because I feel like that bridge is being crossed. And I feel like this loss is going to aggravate them even more than the one in Charlotte did, because they were in better shape than they were in Charlotte. Charlotte, they were almost dead to rights. And
Mhm.
then they came back and sort of made a game of it to be 4 points down Saturday afternoon. They fumbled it away to be 4 points down Saturday afternoon. So they were in the match. So I feel like maybe next time it's going to be in Chicago, which will be hard. But I feel like there's a little something going on over there. And so I don't think it's something changing. People might be playing better, who knows? But I think it's on the way there, and it's closer than people think.
I agree with you there. I do. I hate I'm not a fan of many people on the internet, Mark, but certainly not those who want to change the President's Cup. I think it's
I
fine.
must,
Just
yeah,
needs time.
listen, I must say this. I work for the PGA Tour. Disclaimer. If you had maybe a Cam Smith and
Yes.
Joaquin Neiman and company, that would be a bit more parity. But that being said, the bottom end of the internationals lineup played pretty well. It was
Mhm.
more like when I got there, I was like, for these guys to be relevant, they need three guys to play well: Matsuyama, Adam Scott, and Jason Day, because those guys I figured we're going to see all the matches. They sit J Day the entire Saturday, which I didn't get.
Did
Okay.
not get that either.
And then Hideki played all the matches, but he had flashes of brilliance and flashes where it just looked like his game was inconsistent.
Mhm.
And Scotty just looked like every putt I saw him hit was coming up low and low of the hole and coming up short. So he had issues on the greens. But I have to admit that if you had some of the livers, that may even up things a little bit too.